request will be asked to come forward to the microphone and express their opinion. Each side will have a total of 10 minutes to speak. Developmental plans require a public hearing. However, no action will be taken by the Planning Commission members. Plats, rezoning, revised master plans, street renaming, and text amendments require a public hearing. And once the public hearing is completed, the Planning Commission members will deliberate and render their decision. Planning Commission members with a personal or financial interest in any petitioner's request are required to recuse themselves. Tonight we have Ann Clemens, Frank Cook, Buddy Hardwick, Cruz Reeves, Reggie Don, Kippy Tate, and myself, James Reed. The members of the land use staff are Tommy Tyson, James Center, Jovan Hines, and Tanya Ingram. Members and petitioners are requested to please speak directly into the microphone. The minutes are recorded for legal purposes, and this is the only way to accurately pick up audio. Tonight we have 7 members present, and it takes 5 votes to pass a motion. Because of the number of board members present, if you would like to delay your request, please let us know when your item is called. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No.
All right, everybody, I assume everybody's had a chance to read the minutes from the last meeting from last month. Are there any changes? Anything we need to address?
Second.
The motion has been made and second. All those in favor of accepting the minutes from last month? All right. It has passed. Mr. Tyson, please read the first item.
First item is presented by Flowers and White Engineering on behalf of Shoreline Trucking. It's a public hearing for development plan approval for a new building to be located at 6381 Selma Highway in a M1 district.
Good evening. I'm Kenneth White with Flowers and White Engineering. I'm representing Shoreline Trucking, as Mr. Tyson said. This is just a simple development plan. It's a 60 by 60 building with some gravel parking in front. It's zoned appropriately. I'm not going to entertain any questions. Should y'all have any?
Are there any questions from the members of the board?
What's the water and sewage situation on this lot?
No sewer. The water is actually Pentlala water.
Yeah, okay.
It's actually water. Montgomery water is on the other side of Selma Highway.
Right.
On our side, we have right there. You'll see on the northwest corner, I have an existing water meter. We'll use that one. I don't want to bore State Road.
And sewer?
No sewer.
It's no sewer, so it's going to be septic.
That's correct.
Perked?
Sir?
Perked?
I don't know yet. We haven't designed it yet. I'm not sure where the soil is there. If we have to do a raised bed, we'll do a raised bed. So.
Are there any other questions? Are there any questions or comments from members of the audience? All right, since this is a public hearing, has been held. Good luck on your project.
Thanks, Mr. Reed.
The next item is by Clifford Kong on behalf of Juicy Crab Restaurant. It's a public hearing for development plan for a new building to be located on the north side of East Chase Parkway, 400 feet east of East Chase Lane in a PUD district.
Yes, my name is Clifford Kong, and with me the architect Louis Yuan. We are representing Juicy Crab Restaurant to develop a lot subdivided along the East Chase Parkway. And we brought our rendering to show the council that this will be built along on that lot. And it's going to be a 9,186 square feet building, and have 113 parking space.
Did you say 130 parking spaces?
113 parking spaces.
Oh, 13, okay.
Yeah.
Are there any questions from the members? Comments? Are there any questions, comments from members of the audience? All right, sir, since this is a public hearing, there is no vote, so your public hearing has been held. Good luck on your project.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next item is by Jeff Coat Engineers and Surveyors, LLC, on behalf of Howard Hardy, requesting final approval of Howard Hardy Plat Number 1, located on the southeast corner of Stella Street and Jordan Street. It's a R60D district.
My name is Guthrie Jeffcoat, representing Mr. Howard Hardy. He owns two 40-foot lots at the corner of Stella and Jordan Streets and would like to build a residence across these lot lines, and city ordinance or city rules require him to put it into one lot. So he was platting both of them into Lot A, and then he'll meet the regulations of the platting and building department. Answer any questions if I can. I've got the builder here, Mr. Taylor.
Are there any questions from the members? Comments? Are there any questions from members of the audience? All right.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. All those in favor? All right, sir. Good luck.
Thank you.
The next item is by Glenn Tanner Land Surveying, on behalf of Venice Tolbert, requesting final approval of the Tolbert Plat Number 1, the southeast corner of Hugh Street and Winford Street in a R60D district.
My name is Glenn Tanner. I'm Glenn Tanner Land Surveying. I'm here to ask for final approval of Tolbert
Could you
Plat
speak into
Number-
the mic a little bit more?
Excuse me, sir.
That's okay.
My name is Glenn Tanner. I'm with Glenn Tanner Land Surveying. I'm here to ask for final approval of the Tolbert Plat Number 1.
Are there any questions from the members? Are there any questions from members of the audience? Yes. Please come forward, state your name, address.
Yes, I'm Bonsil Love.
Into the mic, please, a little bit. Pull it down, yes.
My mother owns the property at 2358, which is in front of that property that is up for discussion. I'm just here just for clarification. Would this be a residential home, or what type of building are you putting up? As clarification.
They're doing this so they can add on a room.
Into the mic, please, a little bit.
They're doing this so they can add a room on for their mother because she's disabled, and they're just trying to get it platted to meet the building requirement.
That's fine.
Okay. So you don't oppose it, you would just wanted the information, correct? Right. Okay. All right. Any other members of the audience? All right, a motion is in order.
Move to approve.
All those in favor? All right, thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Y'all have a good evening.
Next item is J.M. Garrett and Son, on behalf of Sun State Oil Incorporated, public hearing for development plan for a new building and canopy to be located at 1005 West South Boulevard. It's a M1 district.
Is there anyone here? All right, we'll move on to the next item.
Next item by J.M. Garrett and Son, on behalf of Store Associates, requesting final approval of Store Associates Plat Number 3 on the southwest corner of I-65 South and West South Boulevard. It's a M1 district.
Tommy, is your mic on?
Yes.
We're having problems hearing you. Thank you.
Is there anyone here
Appreciate it.
for this item? J.M. Garrett and Sons? I'm surprised that you were for the last. I am too. All right, next item.
Next item is by Billy Crum, on behalf requesting to rezone a parcel of land located on the east side of Wares Ferry Road, some 2,600 feet north of Atlanta Highway from Ag 1 to M1.
I'm Billy Crum. We've been doing business out there, a landscape contracting company, since '82, and I got the police jurisdiction.
Billy, talk into that we
Police
can't- there you go.
jurisdiction
Thank you.
moved out to us, and the zoning was never changed from ag to M1, so we wanted to change it to M1.
So all you doing is trying to clean up what was,
Yeah,
what
clean it
what's
up, and
been there, and,
make it look a lot better.
hey, here you go, make it right, yeah, okay.
Are there any other questions? Was there a question down here? Okay. No, sir. Are there any other questions? Are there any questions from members of the audience? All right, a motion is in order.
Motion to approve.
A motion been made and second. All those in favor? All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
The next item is presented by Jay Spencer and Christina Cadden on their own behalf, requesting to rezone one lot on the southwest corner of South Perry Street and Howard Street from R75S and R65M to a B1BQ.
Hello, my name is Christina Cadden. This is my husband Spencer Cadden. We're the owners.
Into the mic, please.
It's not
move it
you,
around.
we're
Can
just
you hear me
having
better now?
problems. That's a lot better, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Christina Cadden. This is my husband Spencer Cadden. We're the owners of 1616 South Perry Street. Ours, I'm going to read off if that's okay, and it's going to be a little bit longer than everyone else's.
That's
Just
okay.
We're going to talk about why the dual-purpose residential commercial B1BQ is appropriate for this building. Back in May 2019, I inquired with the Land Use Department about the possibilities of our desired business venture and purchase of 1616 South Perry Street. We were instructed that discussing our plans with the Garden District Preservation Association would be the first step in determining the viability of our project. The president requested our business proposal, which was promptly provided and circulated amongst the GDPA members.
Ma'am, excuse me, you got to slow down for
Sorry.
us. This is the South.
I'm
okay?
a little nervous
I
if you
can't
can't tell.
understand you. and
Sorry.
I know I can't hear you, so
I apologize.
thank you.
We were advised on specific qualifications that would appease members and address specific concerns that were most pressing. Those qualifications have been outlined in the proposal we've submitted and include limiting the guest count, no outdoor amplified music, an event end time of 10 p.m., valet or shuttle service with contracted off-site parking location, 24-hour security surveillance, and guards provided during events, enclosed perimeter fencing along the entire perimeter, in-house sound system with owner's direct control on sound decibels, interior storm windows for additional soundproofing, a maximum of 36 Saturdays a year for large-scale events, and contracted preferred vendors that are vetted to follow our strict operating rules and procedures. We've always wanted the community to feel invested in this project, so I've actively sought the involvement of the district in a variety of ways. By working with the GDPA, an open channel of communication between ourselves and the neighborhood was formed. On July 24th, we held an open invitation forum at the mansion in order for neighbors in favor or opposed to hear our proposal and express any questions or concerns they had. A few days following that meeting, based on the merits of that business proposal, the GDPA voted in favor 7-3 for our proposed qualified rezoning. Due to the GDPA voting in favor, we decided to proceed with rezoning process and ultimate purchase of this stunning historic mansion. Another reason for our proposal is directly related to the property itself. Just like numerous other houses in the area, the mansion had sat vacant for 6 years and fallen into disrepair. As a result, a large-scale restoration is required to restore this beautiful home to its former glory. What differentiates this property from others in the area is the massive scale of this home. With over 8,000 square feet of living space, the cost of restoration and maintenance of this property will far outweigh the depressed property values in the area. This zoning change would allow the property to sustain itself indefinitely, so that it will remain a gem of the community for many years to come. A main factor in house price depreciation in the neighborhood is the numerous vacant and neglected houses. We strongly believe in a historically accurate restoration that we can share with others in the community as opposed to solely occupying this house ourselves. The mansion also has a history of holding numerous weddings and celebrations in the past with the original Mr. and Mrs. Pelzer owners and their descendants. This rezoning will also breathe new life into the area's economy. During the restoration and operating of the venue and arts education facility, a large number of businesses in the area will have a direct financial benefit. As with the current and amazing revitalization efforts of the downtown area, numerous new jobs will be created as the venture is established. By marketing the property to other cities in the surrounding areas, we will promote tourism, which will in turn benefit local restaurants, hotels, Airbnbs, and bed and breakfasts. One of our highest priorities is maintaining the historical integrity of this property. By qualifying the rezoning of this mansion as outlined, we will ensure that it stays harmonious and compatible with the historic neighborhood. We are not proposing any non-historic exterior or interior changes and will be restoring the property with the original mentality of hosting celebrations. Unfortunately, much of the discussion about this project has revolved around the large-scale events and has overshadowed one of the most beneficial aspects to the community, and that's the offering of the music and arts education. By providing a safe place for neighbors and youth in the area to fine-tune their craft, learn new creative avenues, and experience community involvement, the entire Montgomery area will be benefited. Now I would like to address some of the concerns that have been expressed to me by neighbors regarding the proposed use of the property. First is the reasonable concern regarding noise. This issue has been at the forefront of our planning from the beginning, and we are going to implement multiple procedures to minimize the impact to the neighborhood. There will be no amplified music allowed outdoors, with indoor music ending at 10 p.m., and all guests will be off the property by 10:30 p.m. To limit the sound from inside, interior storm windows will be installed. We will also be solely in charge of controlling the maximum volume of music by using our own custom in-house speaker system. To further ensure this control, only approved vendors will be allowed after signing our very strict noise and behavioral ordinances. We've also limited the frequency of larger scale events to 36 Saturdays a year, while the arts and creative activities will occupy the weekdays. All trash generated from the property will be disposed of property and will be concealed in a pleasant manner out of sight from neighbors and guests. There have been some who have stated that this change would have a negative impact on crime in the area, but we disagree. Numerous vacant and unmonitored houses are what encourage this behavior, as the mansion itself had been broken into while it was vacant, and nearly all interior doors were severely damaged. Our state-of-the-art security system and personnel will greatly deter crime in the area, as well as monitor all vehicles at the valet parking location. With our completely enclosed property, guests will be unable to leave the property by foot, and valet, shuttles, Ubers, and guest pickups will enter onto our property to pick up the guests. I also understand the concerns expressed by the neighbors involving increased traffic and street parking. Although there have been some falsehoods spread concerning this, we will never allow street parking on South Perry Street during events. By using a valet service and off-site parking, the impact on the neighborhood will be minimal. We are also not proposing any concrete or asphalt parking on site, and all on-site parking options will be discussed thoroughly with ARB for approval. All other avenues of restoration will be heavily vetted by ARB, and we will work with them on perfecting the exterior to reflect the grandness and prestige of this historic mansion. Furthermore, we would like to concede that a liquor license will not be necessary for our business, and we will in turn use licensed bartenders or additional liability insurance in accordance with Alabama state law. I wanted to close by addressing some of the falsehoods that surrounded our proposal. The petition failed to mention the dual zoning aspect of the B1BQ, and that at any time the property could automatically be reverted back to a residential mansion without going through the legal process of rezoning. I also wanted to state that the images shown on Exhibit C of the objection statement were from an event put on by the Landmarks Open House, which was not affiliated with us. We would never allow parking on South Perry Street. Finally, I wanted to openly apologize on behalf of a few individuals to neighbors that have received threats or hostility, as we have ourselves, because of their support for this proposal. We know that change can often be hard, but sometimes it is necessary. Rezoning this property will allow this beautiful home to be maintained for years to come and bring an incredible amount of positivity to the area. Thank you, and I appreciate you allowing me to defend our proposal. And I apologize for how long that took.
Before I open this up,
Mr. Chairman.
first thing, is there anyone up here who want to recuse himself from this?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself, and at the proper time, I'd like to speak from the podium on this item.
Okay. One. Anyone else? All right. Leave 6. So you need 5 to pass.
Okay.
And so as of now, we have 6. Now, are there any questions from the members of the board?
If you don't mind, go back to the right, you were right towards the end of your presentation, and you were talking about parking. And
Parking,
you were
yes.
parking. And parking, excuse me, parking. 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 That's the little near sound. Parking. And you mentioned something about somebody having an event, I thought, and it was about parking on Perry Street. Did I hear?
Yes,
Do you mind talking right into it and go back to that part and tell me what you said, please, ma'am?
Yes.
Don't read it, just give me the short version.
Okay.
I'm just trying to understand what,
Yes, there was a open house that was put on by the Landmarks Association
Yes,
that took place at the property before we owned it, and there was a petition letter that was passed around that had images of that parking, of people parking on Perry Street
Yes,
as
ma'am.
a way of showing that that was something that we did, and I just wanted to separate the two as something we would never allow parking because you're not allowed to park on South Perry Street.
okay, all right, thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
that's what I thought you were referencing, thank you very much.
You said that you were going to use valet parking in terms of, so you're going to use shuttle, so the guests arrive, and you get them out their car, or?
Yes, guests will arrive at our property. We have a driveway that has a roundabout. They will exit their car at the roundabout. Our valet will then take their car to an off-site parking location, and then at the end of the night, the valet will go
Bring
get
their
their
car
car,
back.
and so our guests will never leave off of our property by foot or just wander around.
So it's like
or
a
get through.
hotel style?
Yes.
And where is that valet parking?
We are in contract or trying to get a contract right now, and it's pretty close. I don't want to openly say it at this point until it's fully contracted. Nothing is final.
I'm sorry. Say-
Hey, buddy.
Yes, sir.
It's not
Tell me now.
finalized at this point, and I'm worried that that there might
I
be
understand.
intimidation.
I can appreciate that.
So you're making the valet parking a part of your proposal for approval. However, what if the deal doesn't work in the parking area that you're looking for doesn't come through?
We have 3 options available to us.
So all 3 options are under
So we're trying.
negotiation?
Say it again?
All 3 options are being negotiated?
Yes.
So I got another question for you. You were mentioning something about ADA in the Americans with Disabilities Act.
ARB, sorry.
Well, I'm talking about ADA.
Okay.
How does this would become a public venue, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So if I'm in a wheelchair, how do I experience your place?
We have an elevator.
How do you get to the elevator?
It's on the ground level, right outside
I
on the
understand
ground.
that, but I see a bunch of steps going up to the porch, so how would you get to the elevator?
It's on the ground level on the bottom of the stairs. You can't see it unless you're looking at the house. There's a door and it opens up and that's the elevator shaft. It's right on the ground level.
Okay.
You'll see the bottom of the back stairs.
And there's a sidewalk that leads you to that door?
Yes.
Okay.
When you are having the non-public events, when you're doing your dancing, how many students are you expecting, or the art studio, are they going to be able to park on site, or are they going to have to use parking off site also?
So we are proposing that there would be 20 to 25 parking spots on the property. But again, we have to discuss that with ARB first before we can finalize that. So our students would be parking on site.
Would be parking on site, and this would be parking on the grass or gravel.
Yes, we're working with a company that has this special underneath the gravel so that it holds up and then it doesn't soak into the ground. So that, yeah.
Okay.
So let's talk about sound for a minute. And these bands and big events you gotta have. Somebody said you're gonna have 36 events, right?
36 a year, yes.
Who monitors and makes sure you don't have 37?
Us, I guess.
Yeah, you know, the fox can't watch the hen house now. I mean, so Tommy, who's gonna make sure they don't have 37 events in there?
I'm sure the neighbors would.
Okay. But I mean, that's part of the qualifications. If you had 37, I want to know who's going to tell us you had one more than you should have had. But that's a question that remains open because I don't think there is an answer.
No, there isn't.
So I'll leave that open. Let's talk about sound and acoustics for a minute. So you're solely relying on your storm windows to prevent sound from exiting the building. Is that right?
So we're also, the way we're doing our landscaping and perimeter of the property, we are also doing that to dampen the sound, but we also are going to have our own in-house speaker system that we are controlling. So we will set the decibel levels that when you get to the end of our property line, you will not be able to hear the sound outside of our property. The property itself sits on a 1.7 acre lot with the house in the center of it.
Look, I understand that. I know exactly where this place is. I'm just trying to figure out if I'm a neighbor of yours, what assurances can I have that I won't be affected by any sound coming from the events that you're having there? You mentioned storm windows, so any sound transmission coefficient values that you can give us on those windows that would assure us that no sound comes through those windows?
Sorry, I could barely hear you. Say that again?
So you had mentioned storm windows. And the way we measure sound is through STC, sound transmission coefficients. Do you know the sound transmission coefficient of those storm windows?
Not off the top of my head.
So you can't guarantee then that the sound won't come out of the house.
I can do everything in my ability to prevent it leaving the property line, and we will adjust the decibels of that sound so that it will not reach outside of that, and we will set a governor on our sound system that will not overreach that sound system.
So now you're guaranteeing that it won't come out of the house.
I'm going to do my best to guarantee it, yes.
Have you tried it?
Say it again?
Have you tried it?
I have not tried it yet. But we also do not have the storm windows in
It's
set.
just not set up yet.
It's just not set up. I mean, we have a full restoration project that's about 1.5 years long.
All right, let's go back to this sound for a minute.
Okay.
So if I'm your neighbor and I'm concerned about the activities that are happening over there, in some places you're going to have 100+ people in there, right? In some events you'll have more than 100 people in there, possibly. You said the fire marshal or somebody allowed you to have 100.
Yes.
So you got 100+ people, and they're going to make noise just by talking, and you've got a music element to the party, or whatever you want to call it, the event. I think as a next-door neighbor, I'd like to know that I won't be affected at all by all of these people and the music and the festivities that are coming out of that house. And these folks are going to want a guarantee, at least on that, and I'm not hearing you guarantee any of it.
We're going to do our best to guarantee everything that we have outlined in our qualifications, because that is what we have set the limits of ourselves for.
So when you guys had your meeting, how was this asked and how was it addressed? Were your answers satisfactory to the neighbors around sound?
I believe so, in the sense that they voted 7-3 in favor.
Well, now that's a little tricky now, because I got 1,000 calls about this project.
Apologize about
that. All of them
that.
suggested that they were in favor of it, and we'll get into this a little bit more, because my biggest concern is sound and the effect of having 100 people in one building, circulating in and out. All of these folks won't be inside of the building at one time, I'm pretty sure. People are coming and going, doors opening and closing. Cars are being parked and valeted. If I wanted to leave the party earlier, somebody's got to pick up my car. So there's going to be a lot of motion around this project. And so for me to get some comfort level that you've got this thing well thought out, there's a lot more explaining you got to do. One's going to be about these windows and the guarantee that won't be any sound that affects the neighbors. That's one thing. The other thing is the movement, the traffic involved. I know you got valet parking and so forth, but if you had 100 people coming to this thing, you got a lot of cars to valet. So how does that volume of traffic affect the neighbors, the traffic flow in the street, and so forth? And the last thing I want to note, I noticed you did a nice, pretty picture that indicated where all of the, as you call it, commercial / non-residential properties were. And based on my orientation, all of those properties are west of your house. Are there any other properties in this category that are east of your house?
Sorry, I apologize. If I'm looking at my house right here, is east?
Yeah, east is to the right,
East.
west would be to the left.
East is toward Atlanta.
That way. Well, even the churches that
Or
are,
toward East Chase.
sorry.
So I'm just trying to, if you put a graphic in there like that, it's a little bit misrepresented to me, because it only shows these kinds of properties and uses on one end or one sector of the community, but it does not show me if there's any other properties like this on the other side of the street.
There is Hillcrest Manor, which is 0.3 miles away up in the front. On the other side, is that what you're talking about?
And what kind of place is Hillcrest Manor?
It's a wedding venue, also a B1 BQ facility, 0.3 miles away.
How big is it?
How big
many
is
square
it?
feet is it?
The house, I believe, is about 5,000 square feet on a 1.9 acre lot.
Ma'am, you're going to have to wait till you're recognized. You'll be recognized. Okay, you'll be recognized, I promise. So,
Oh, yeah.
so there's one property, right?
Yes, that is pretty similar in terms of what we are projecting to do.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll hold off. You're going to be here for a while, so don't worry. Mr. Chairman, I'm done for right now.
Okay. I have a question for you. When you had your public hearing, about how many people were there? Was it only the Garden District Preservation Association, or was it other?
There was about 50 people there.
About 50 people? And
But we did open it up to everyone. We allowed anybody who was willing to come and wanted to come.
okay. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I want to go back to the parking, okay, just a minute. Explain again, you're going to have valet parking. So I pull up, I get out, I get a ticket, my car goes somewhere, and everyone else is doing the same thing.
Or shuttle parking is also an avenue in which we're going to explore, where one of the separate options. So we have 3 parking options.
So you go park somewhere and they shuttle you.
And the shuttle will be the one that comes to us.
Shuttle you over
So
there.
if that is a preferred method, we can go with that route, which would very limit the amount of cars that enter our facility. It would just be the shuttle going back and forth.
Just getting down to the bottom line. The bottom line is, my concern is, I really have a concern about Perry Street. You know, Frederick is kind of a cut through, you know, between Court and Perry. But Perry, you know, cars parked on both sides. I know we say we're not going to do it, not going to happen, but you don't have that. You don't have control over everybody. You know that, you just don't. And that really is a concern.
We can monitor the cars that are on our facility, or that are going to our facility. If they are parking on the street outside of us, we absolutely will tell them to leave or to move with our security guards. So we can control the ones that park that are coming to our place. I can't control the ones that park on South Perry that go to other places.
Yeah, that's visiting somebody across the street.
Exactly.
Right, certainly you can't. Okay. But you sound like you've thought through this pretty much.
I have been planning this for months and months and months. And I'm still willing to make any adjustments that is deemed necessary.
And you're still getting the same questions, aren't you?
I am, and I'm trying to address the.
I wanted to ask a question. Buddy just said something I thought, are you thinking that perhaps the off-site parking area that you're contracting, that it can accommodate cars parking there first and then being shuttled over?
Yes.
Is that what
Yes, ma'am.
That's an alternative?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
That would certainly eliminate a lot of the noise and moving around.
Yes, that's definitely something we're
Yeah.
interested and willing to do.
So if you don't mind, how many shuttles would you have?
So each shuttle can fit about 40 people, so it'd be about 3 shuttles.
So I gotta wait on a shuttle to get to your place if I parked in the lot.
If there's 3, they'd be going concurrently, so they'd be going at the same time.
So let me go back to ADA for a minute, because I'm very concerned about the accessibility. Your last statement on page 7 says ADA accessible via elevators subject to review by ADA and ARB. Who's going to review this for ADA compliance?
We are going to reach out to the local Alabama ADA and do as much. The reason why we don't have concrete answers on those yet is because we needed to get all of the restoration started, and then once I start the plan of the restoration, then I can reach out to the ADA.
Ma'am, let me just stop you because that's not a good answer. You know ADA is a civil rights law, right?
Yes,
That's
sir.
a discrimination law. So I've got to have a clear understanding of how this ADA business is going to work, not just to get into your facility, but once I'm in there, will the bathrooms be ADA accessible? Will I have clear paths to move around and clearances that are required for a wheelchair or anybody that's potentially in that category of persons? So when you say reviewed by ADA, are you saying, because Alabama doesn't have an ADA review, I know that. So I'm just trying to figure out who's going to say, hear you, this is ADA compliant and your project is good to go from an ADA compliant standpoint.
I wish I could give you a better answer on that one, sir.
I got to vote on this tonight, though.
I can tell you that.
Tell me.
The plans go to the building department, and they have to issue a certificate of occupancy, and for this type of use, they would have to mandate that.
Now, Tommy, unless y'all's comments have changed, and I've got a zillion comments from the city, and they basically throw that back on the owner. Your review department, unless it's changed, they don't take a lot of responsibility for ADA compliance. They make that a responsibility of the owner. Is somebody in here who can tell me I'm wrong?
The building department issues the certificate of occupancy.
But they don't review those plans, unless I'm wrong, and where's your plan review guy? He basically has a statement on his plan review comments that basically throws the compliance back on the owner unless it's changed recently. So their review doesn't necessarily absolve them of compliance. But if the city wants to take that responsibility, that's fine. If you're saying that, so let me ask you this, Tommy, tonight. Are you saying that once the building department lets those plans go and provide a approval that that project will be ADA compliant?
We can certainly do that.
So the city is going to be responsible for making sure they have an ADA compliant facility?
Yes.
Okay. Say that again so it can get on the tape now. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm glad we got that clear.
Excuse me, I thought he was through, so go ahead, finish.
Are you finished?
Let me go back to the parking. Is it illegal to park on Perry Street?
Yes. Right? Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Kipper, did you have anything else?
No.
I got all night.
Oh, sorry. No, it's not.
Y'all go ahead.
But I don't like it anyway, so.
Is there any other questions from the members of the board? All right.
I'll wait.
Are you sure? You sure? You
No, I'm not done, but I don't.
go ahead. Go ahead then. Go ahead.
We got time. Look, let's get some people up here to talk.
Okay. Before I open it up to the audience, time is not going to allow everybody to speak. So, if you have a representative that can come up and speak for you, we would prefer that. But time is not going to allow everybody to speak that's in the audience. Time's just not going to allow it. So, representatives that would like to come up and ask a question or comment or whatever, we're open up to you. Please state your name.
In favor of or against?
Yeah, in favor of or against,
But
either one. But make sure you let us know what side you're on. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Hostetter,
Yeah.
and I am in favor. 5 years ago, my husband and I...
Where do you live? Where do you live?
Excuse-
Your
excuse-
address? Your address? Your address.
1349 South Perry. I was about to tell you that.
Okay.
We came here 5 years ago to rescue the Greek revival on the corner of South Perry and Clinton, and we have done a complete historic restoration of that home, so we are very familiar with what the Caddens will have to do in order to do the historic restoration to this property. I've talked extensively with Christina about her plans for this venue, and I wanted to give a slightly different perspective to this project this evening. I don't know exactly when Christina's dream started to have a historic destination wedding venue, but I do know that she set out with a very extensive list of what this property would have to have, what she would want in the neighborhood, and what kind of good neighbor and good business owner they would like to be. She started a national search for a property, and she thought she had found the perfect one in Georgia. Only Christina had a couple of lessons to learn about pursuing your dreams. When she got there, this beautiful 10,000 square foot Georgian mansion that had been restored and was already a venue left her feeling rather cold. She was very surprised about that, and it gave her great concern. So she came here to the second property, expecting to find something similar. Except she found a home that had been vacant for 6 years and was dying, just like mine had been. That big old home wrapped itself around her and said, "You're home." Now, Christina set about being a good neighbor and a good business person, and she went to the ARB, to the Preservation Society, to our board, to the Zoning Commission, to find out what needed to be done to get an exception so that she could have this very special venue in our neighborhood. She also is considering buying the property next door, so there are no immediate neighbors in this next to the property where the venue would be held. We're talking about a young person coming to our community to make almost $1 million investment in 2 properties that have been vacant. It's very rare to find people, young people of that caliber, who want to take on a daunting task like this. And I was very excited that we might have a young person here who could help restore our neighborhood, because the Garden District has been in decline for a very, very long time. We hear people complain about the condition of the property. And would somebody else please buy it and fix it up? Well, here we have 2 young people who want to build their life here and to restore 2 historic pieces of property and to bring a venue that can attract people from all over the state and the region. Destination weddings are very, very popular. I've been to a number of them in my life. I've traveled hundreds of miles to get there, sometimes by car, sometimes by plane. This is the kind of venue that can attract a feature story in Southern Living magazine. and Brides magazine, and probably Preservation magazine. I know as the owner of a historically registered home, I would be one of the first to contact them to ask for them to come here and do a feature on the restoration of this mansion. Christina has already mentioned part of the impact that it would have on this city. We want our city to grow. There's been a lot of effort that has been put into revitalizing the downtown. I'm not going to take a lot of time in reiterating that it's not just the wedding planners and the caterers and the florists who are going to benefit. There are going to be contractors who are going to be doing this work for about a year and a half. There will be landscapers to come in and create the gardens and maintenance people to maintain them. There are going to be hotels and restaurants, and I know at the destination weddings that I've been to, the families have provided entertainment for their out-of-town guests. Well, this is a historic destination.
Ma'am.
So there are people who'll want to see a lot of Montgomery. So as responsible citizens and responsible city leaders, I hope that you will take those things into consideration as you make your decision this evening. And I fully support their endeavor to bring this venue to Montgomery.
Hey, ma'am, before you go, got a question for you.
Excuse me, yes.
So you live 3 blocks away?
Yes.
So how, you wouldn't be directly affected by the sound, the noise, and traffic from this property, would you?
No,
Okay,
and nor
thank you.
would anyone who is on that block. There are no houses next door. The only house that's next door is the one the Caddens would like to purchase to live in. That's a bank repossession, and they're having to wait for the term in order to be able to purchase that property too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name, address, and whether you oppose or...
My name is Ward Beeson. I've lived at 1471 South Perry Street for over 22 years. And
Speaking to the mic a little bit more, please.
Sure. I oppose and I represent a large group of residents in the neighborhood who oppose this rezoning. I've served as president, VP, Perry Street block captain, and law chair of the GDPA as well. We've provided you with a packet of materials. The third page provides a map. And on that map is color coordinated. The darker colors on the map show all the folks that are with us that have signed a petition opposing this rezoning. And as you'll see on the map, the neighborhood is divided by Felder, left to right, and the subject property is in the bottom southwest corner. And most of the folks we've got to that oppose are on that area of Perry Street, near the property, and on the next adjacent street that will be affected, which is Gilmer. I also want to say the GDPA support should really be given little weight by this body. They only represent a fraction of the people in the neighborhood. There are over 600 residences in the neighborhood. There's 92 members of the GDPA. More than 110 people have signed our petition opposing this. On liquor licenses, when the Caddens first came to the neighborhood, they said they were going to get a liquor license. People can change their mind. We know this. If you allow this rezoning, we could be faced with coming down here and having to fight that as well. The location is directly in front of the public high school. It's within 1 block of Hull Street Memorial Baptist Church and within 1 or 2 blocks of the Episcopal Church of Ascension and the Trinity Presbyterian Church. Noise and light pollution degrades the quality of life in a quiet residential neighborhood with parties planned 3 weekends a month until 11 o'clock p.m. Property values would be diminished with the addition of this kind of commercial zoning. To this end, I'd like to refer to one of the letters we have in the back of your materials, written by Dr. Paul Shaw. He lives on Gilmer. I think he speaks real well to this. I think he speaks for the group, and I agree with it. If the zoning change is granted, the following consequences are likely to occur. New buyers will be reluctant to move here as the area will appear less stable, i.e. subject to further unexpected and undesirable changes. They will fear loss of their investment, with home ownership being the largest investment in the majority of individuals' lives. Present owners will not be willing to invest in their present properties, fearing an empty return on their investment. Present owners will start to leave the area due to fear of undesirable changes in their beloved neighborhood, as well as fear of financial loss. When investment decreases, residents move out and a less stable population moves in. A zoning variance would open the potential for further exceptions, such as someone's desire for a daycare center. The inevitable street parking that's going to occur with parties of more than 120 people creates a nuisance and safety hazard for the residents and generates additional enforcement work for an already overburdened police force. You've been discussing the photographs we've got in our packet, which showed what happens with just one event that was held at the property. People are going to park on Perry, especially if you make them travel some distance to leave their car, somewhere. And we know that in the neighborhood as well. They do it all the time. Increased congestion in a residential neighborhood reduces property values and increases litter and pollution. Constant traffic created by delivery vehicles, garbage removal, vendors, class attendees, staff, and partygoers is detrimental to the safety of residents with increased potential for vehicle crashes into pedestrians, animals, and property. The addition of dumpsters to accommodate the garbage from all these partygoers detracts from the visual appeal of the neighborhood and attracts vermin and creates unpleasant smells. This property was not constructed for commercial use. It's one of the largest and most historically significant homes, not just in the Garden District, but in the city. Regular heavy foot traffic and the changes required to comply with commercial use would destroy its historic character. In addition, we've got wedding venues and meeting spaces all over the place. I've got a list at the very end of our packet that shows there are already 25 within 1.5 miles. Our neighbors don't need this. And I also want to, at this point, ask the folks in the crowd who are here, how many who live on Perry, Gilmer, and Court actually support this rezoning? Raise your hands, please.
I do, and I live at 1219 South.
All right. Sir, you finished? Oh, you finished?
Can I ask one more question? Then I want to ask how many who live on Court, Perry, and Gilmer oppose this rezoning?
All right. Is that it?
Got to do one final. My final thing I want to say is, we put to you, would you like to live next door to this proposed party palace? If your answer is no, don't make us do it. And for our group, we do have just one more speaker. She lived directly across the street from the house. We're all flummoxed about this because she is adjacent to the property. Ms. Heather Warren.
If at all possible, could you kind of not repeat what he said?
Oh, yes.
If at all possible.
My name is Heather Warren. I live at 1617 South Perry Street, directly across from this property. And this has been in my family for at least 30 years. I grew up in this house, and then when my parents had to move to take care of my grandfather, they did not sell the house, and then when I got married, I decided to move back into the neighborhood so I could try to fix up the house. It's slow going because I am doing it myself. I can't necessarily afford contractors. But I have been working on this house, and I am incredibly concerned about the noise and the traffic. While they have proposed solutions, there's nothing concrete to say that there's not going to be a large amount of noise, that there's not going to be a large amount of traffic, that when students are taking classes, I know when I was in high school, I didn't drive myself to classes necessarily. My parents would drop me off. There was a line of cars that would be there to drop off students for whatever activities that they were taking part in. And so aside from that, just the noise is probably my biggest concern, the large amount of people that will be there constantly and not necessarily feeling comfortable in my own home. I'm not necessarily saying that it's going to be dangerous, but just the large amount of people will make me feel very uncomfortable in my house.
Right.
And, there's no guarantee that they're not going to be outside. Just yesterday, there were several people sitting on the front steps of the house, and I was on my own porch, and I could hear very clearly laughing, talking, all that. And that was just 4 people, so 40 people or 100 people, you can't control the noise that would happen outside.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
My name is Jim Yeaman. I live at 1414
Sir,
South.
wait a minute. Sir, what was your name? Your name? Ward Beeson. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you.
My name is Jim Yeaman. I live at 1414 South Hull Street. I'm the owner and innkeeper of the Lattice Inn. Mr. Tate asked if there were other commercial type properties east of this property. I happen to own one of them. And there are two other venues that have weddings and events, Church of the Ascension and Trinity Presbyterian. With regard to the noise issue, every time the Lanier Band practices and every time the Alabama State Band practices, they generate noise. And that noise is going to be greater than anything that these wonderful people could ever generate out of that small property. I stand in favor of their movement, and I encourage you to approve it.
Got a question for you, sir. Don't
Sir,
go.
sir.
So does Alabama State's band and Lanier Band, are they playing year-round?
Sir, when they practice, it could be year-round. They
So
practice
Alabama
virtually
State
year-round.
practices year-round. You hear the marching band, right?
I tell you, sir, if you come to my house about 3 days a week, 4 days a week during football season,
Okay,
you've
I'm
got the
talking
noise.
about
You've
after
got the
football
noise.
season.
Yeah.
After football season, you have that same level of band
There are other
noise.
activities at these schools that generate more noise than would ever come out of this small event.
But my
for
question
36
is, you made the
36
comparison.
days a year.
Is it the same level of noise year-round, or does it diminish after football season?
They're going to have 36 event days. The Alabama State Band and the Lanier Band practice 5 to 6 days a week during football season. That's many more days than the 36 event
I
days
just
they
like
would
a
have.
yes or no answer. Is it the year-round, or is it?
I don't want to be argumentative with you, sir, but I think the issue is that the noise is a non-issue.
But I think it's unfair for you to talk about Alabama State's band and Lanier Band being a problem when it's seasonal.
All right, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Jerry Taylor. I live at 1219 South Perry Street. That happens to be about 4 or 5 doors down from the governor's mansion, on the opposite side of the governor's mansion. First of all, I'd like to say that I am not a member of the Garden District Homeowners Association, although I do live there. So I am one of the people that isn't a member, but certainly cares about their neighborhood. Now, I will tell you this, noise. The governor has many events year-round, and there are people parking on the street. They block off traffic. There was a band playing 2 weeks ago. Last week it was a dinner party, but guess what? They're over at 10. I've lived in my home since 2003, and I've raised both my children there. I love my home, but I hate the abandoned and derelict buildings. I can't call them homes anymore. They're buildings. Urban blight is unbelievable in our neighborhood. I think it's quite unrealistic for some of my neighbors. I think it's unrealistic for some of my neighbors to automatically assume that a home that has been vacant for 6 years and vandalized is suddenly going to become a desirable property. I don't know these people. I've never met them. I could not have told you what any of them look like, but I can address why you've probably been getting a lot of phone calls and maybe emails. This piece of paper was put in my mailbox 3 days ago, and I'll be happy to let y'all look at it. But apparently people in the Garden District Homeowners Association that are for this proposal didn't get this flyer. This flyer lists everybody's phone number, home numbers, cell numbers, emails, and it says, your presence and voice is critical. The wedding venue supporters will be there. Well, it's my understanding that that home, and I did not tour it, I just had surgery. It's my understanding that home was built for entertaining. And it's further my understanding that the people that lived there built that home with the entire purpose of entertaining and having a good time. If you don't think weddings are joyous occasions where people have a good time, as far as their business proposal goes, they've thought about it. Any zoning laws that they don't meet, any federal and state standards they don't meet, they won't be cleared. I know that. I've had to do a lot of renovation on my home. I think it is extremely fascinating that the person that owns Hillcrest is here. I'm not sure, but I don't think she lives in the Garden District.
All right, let's not get personal. Just.
My point is this. My point is this. I think that the needs of the many outweigh the voices of a few. Obviously, the Garden District members voted 7-3 in favor, but suddenly you people are getting a barrage of phone calls and emails and texts all about this very thing because those folks over there didn't get what they wanted.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, ma'am.
That's a tough one to follow.
I'm John Phillips. I'll be brief. I'm a member.
Please.
I'm a member of the Garden District Board. I live on McDonough Street, but I'm not speaking for the board, and I'm sure they'll do that shortly. I just want to say that the Garden District has never supported a commercial endeavor, ever, until this one came up. And the reason it was supported is it solves a lot of problems, and the owners have done a great job of addressing any inconveniences it would cause. I mean, they've gone completely out of their way to make sure this is going to work, and it's going to work well for the neighborhood, and it's going to be a big plus. But what I did want to say is Montgomery struggled for years to bring in young, bright people that will secure our future. These people are here right now. They've got a great plan. They're going to be a great contributor to the neighborhood, a great contributor to the city, and this is a no-brainer. This is an absolute no-brainer. It's a huge plus. There's no reason to consider not doing this. Like I said, it's just absolutely a win-win for the Garden District. Thank you.
One question for you, sir. One question for you.
Yes, sir.
How many blocks away do you live from this property?
Probably 5 or 6 blocks.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Brandon Brazil. I live on 454 Clanton Avenue.
Hey, Brandon.
Yes, sir, Mr. Tate. And I do hear the ASU band playing all the time, and the Lanier band, I think. I'm just clarifying that. You know,
Good to see you, buddy.
they play year round. But
in the snow?
The Garden District has long held that we want to stay primarily single-family homes. We've got that. We want to preserve historic buildings also. And the reason the board, and Glenn will talk about this later, took the stance that we supported this is A, we live around a bunch of churches that have weddings. We live around schools, institutions. It's a very diverse neighborhood. We have the governor's mansion, as was mentioned. But the bottom line is these folks have a solid business plan and are going to save a house and will be a benefit to our neighborhood. So it's really hypocritical for us to say, you can't do that. They seem to know what they're doing. I've been in the house. It needs a lot of work. It's going to, I mean, I'm not going to throw numbers out there, but it's going to take as much as they're going to put into it to buy it, to fix it. And we want investment in our neighborhood. I understand their concerns. They're addressing parking. They're addressing everything they can to placate the neighbors the best they can. I don't think noise is an issue. I mean, why don't we get the police to enforce the noise ordinance with the guys coming down my street every night? You know, so I mean, we have, you know, there's a lot of issues in our neighborhood. We have the same issues, crime, but we have someone who wants to invest a lot of money in our neighborhood, and we like them, and we already have venues that are similar to this. So it's not anathema to the neighborhood. So in my logic, you know, worst case scenario, they go bust, we got a fixed up house at least, and then someone else can move into it. Not that I wish that on you. But I just think that as far as, I've seen a lot of crazy zoning go on, not that blaming y'all, but over time, so spot zoning, we have tons of crazy zoning in our neighborhood. But, so this is not a bad thing. Okay. So I would hope you would
So Brandon, let me ask you a question.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Now you said you participated on one of these boards at one point in your life.
I have, yeah, for 2 terms.
And you took some pretty hard stances. I remember.
Yes, I did.
We talked about a lot of them.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so I just wanted you to know that I realize that
I understand.
you understand what we got to do.
I understand. You
So,
have me-
so the question for you though, Brandon, is first of all, how close do you live to this house?
I live on Clinton Avenue, so, I mean, I'm not immediately adjacent. But also, my lots are 50-foot lots, whereas this is a 100-foot lot. So it's a different animal. If I live next to it, even in a 100-foot lot, that's a whole different, I mean, if you come on my street, my lot's this big, Mr.
Brandon,
Tate.
you know I know where you live, man.
I know, but, and then this one's probably 125, 200-foot wide.
So maybe you can help them answer some questions about the windows, the noise.
I think they're very game to everything to get
But
to
I'm
move
just saying,
ahead.
from a presentation perspective, a lot of that was unclear to me. So maybe you can go help them understand.
I
some of
will,
these
I will, and also the ARB. They've got. I think they've already gone for the ARB, but I mean,
Yeah.
or will. So,
Yeah, that's
but
separate,
thank
that's
you,
a
Mr.
whole
Tate.
separate deal, though.
Yes.
They're not interested in the
We will
same.
we will hold their feet to the fire, Mr. Tate. Thank you.
But yeah, but the other thing I'm concerned about that you mentioned is the spot zoning aspect of this request. And I don't think we've talked about that yet.
Let me mention real quickly, I brought something. What constitutes spot zoning? The classic definition of spot zoning is the process of singling out a small parcel of land for a use classification totally different from that of the surrounding areas for the benefit of the owner of the such property and to the detriment of other owners. So that's what spot zoning is.
Well, I would counter that if you go
But
a
it's
block
both.
away,
It's to the detriment of other owners. And
Correct.
At this point, I haven't seen anything that's to the detriment of other owners. Thank you.
But there's the school around the block. There's the other wedding venue. There's the churches. We have a very diverse neighborhood. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Tate.
Brandon, I would hope that you leave the churches out of this because I hadn't been to where at least the churches I go to,
What?
it's 10 o'clock at night. I don't know, but y'all leave the churches alone. But you know, to talk about spot zoning, I think that my colleague, he did make a good point, but I don't know if that's ever been something that we all have understood the same way. So there's ways to interpret what was explained, and I think that's what we're going to have to do in just a little while.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Tate.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I'm Glenn Kane. I'm president of the Garden District Preservation Association.
Could
I
you,
live on South Lawrence
could you hold the
Street.
mic up a little bit? Could you speak into the mic a little bit? Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm the president of the Garden District Preservation Association. I live on South Lawrence Street. Most of everything I wanted to say has been covered already through everybody and everybody else's testimony. I did want to mention to you that you may have gotten a petition from the opposition detailing what they claim were 110 resident signatures versus 92 residents of the Garden District. The 92 residents of the Garden District, that measure is based on number of homes. The 110 residents that supposedly signed that petition are, you'll see several people at one address, and in addition you have 2 pages of apartments signed by one person who owns the apartment, but it's not a resident of the apartment. So I wanted you to take that into consideration when assessing the level of opposition, if you do look at that petition, to kind of consider that the two aren't, it's not apples and apples.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
My name is Paula Weiss. I'm also a resident of the Garden District. I own property at 320 Bellinger Lane and 1287 South Lawrence Street, which is at the corner of Lawrence and Clanton. From looking at the neighborhood, which I've only been in for I have bought property about 10 years ago and have only lived in it for the past 2 years. I'm currently redoing the house on Lawrence Street, which has required about 4 times as much as the cost of the house. There are any number of properties in our neighborhood that are vacant, deteriorating, and falling to pieces. And having watched the example of Winter Place go just from a fabulous residential home to a money pit, I believe that this property needs to be taken care of now before it gets beyond the point where anybody would even consider trying to refurbish it. As for traffic and noise, well, Court Street, Perry Street, Hall Street, and all the other streets that go from south to downtown will have traffic and noise all day, all night. Decatur Street, and whatever, it turns into Norman Bridge, that is one of the busiest streets in town, and it's also one of the ones that is deteriorating the fastest. And as for most of the neighborhood being single-family residential, it's really not. There is more duplex, apartments, and other rental properties than single-family residential.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Diane Beeson, and I oppose rezoning. I live on 1471 South Perry Street, lived there for more than 22 years. We have invested several $100,000s in the maintenance of our nationally registered historic home, as many of my neighbors have done the same. So as taxpayers and voters, we have invested heavily in this community. When a house was in foreclosure on South Perry, we bought it so that a slumlord would not. We maintain our properties, and we are proud of our community. Unfortunately, some of the newer people to our neighborhood have failed to see the progress, which is sometimes slow and sometimes moves in fits and starts. But if you would refer to your packet, you'll see there are 2 links. The first link is Old House Love, which talks about what other people's views of this property, 1616 South Perry, is and could be. When they say the house was vacant for 6 years, yes, but it was not marketed until recently. There was a death in the family and it was going through probate. That is the reason this house is empty. It was never properly marketed, because if it was, we would have bought it. So the problem is not the fact that there are vacant homes, it's the fact that they are not marketed. The second point on that, the second link, if you'll look at that, those are comments from an Airbnb that is operated directly across the street from 1616 South Perry. I've read all 250 comments on that thing, and I'd like for you to note that they all mention what a lovely, historic, quiet, beautifully maintained neighborhood this is. So this is the view of unbiased outside people. So I find it very difficult to understand why new owners in our neighborhood fail to see the beauty in our historic homes. I would like for you to consider our investment when making your decision tonight. Indeed, it is spot zoning. Anything commercial, and if you have a question about that, you can look at Dexter Avenue, where absentee landowners have made promises about maintaining property and did not. They are from California, they have not lived here, they have not paid taxes here, and they do not know this community. There are way more wedding venues than we need. We do not have need of this type of business, and we certainly have no need of commercial property in our residential historic district. I ask that you please do not destroy our history. They mentioned tourism. The main tourism draw to Montgomery, Alabama is the history of this fine community. When you destroy history, it cannot be replaced. Please do not approve this rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hilda Dent. I work on old houses, old windows, and you can get storm windows that can keep the noise from an airport nearby out. You can get storm windows that keep the sound of traffic and city noise out. That can be dealt with. I've been talking to Christine about doing the windows. We will have the window issue noise-wise taken care of. I've been living in the Garden District for well nigh 40 years, close to this property, not too near, until 7 years ago I moved to the other side of the interstate in the former Women's Club, which is now my shop. I have been privileged to inhabit a great number of beautiful, beautiful old houses. An 8,000 square foot house of this magnitude needs a way to help support itself, needs a way to help maintain itself. It is so fortunate when I have the privilege of working on a property that has found the right people. I believe this house has, in this young couple. I told Laura Calloway on the way out from the meeting that they remind me of what we were like back when we tried to save the Capri Community Film Society. I said, nobody told us we couldn't. She said, oh yeah, Hilda, they did tell us we couldn't. We did it anyway. Please, let these young folks do their thing. This property needs them.
Hilda, don't go. I know you're a window expert, and thank you for what you do. Your work is all over town, and it looks good. I like it.
Thank you.
One question I got for you is, I know your windows can stop the sound of an airplane. How are we going to treat the doors? Will you do it the same way you do the windows?
This
Explain that to me.
building already has storm doors on it.
But will it have the same properties as the windows that will stop an airplane?
We will make sure they do.
Can you explain to me how you're going to do it?
Weather stripping. You want me to go into different kinds of weather stripping?
I understand weather stripping very well. You've answered my question.
There's silicone bulbs, there's felt, there's spring bronze, there's lots of options.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
I'm having a workshop Saturday if you want to come learn more.
I'm Cruz Reeves, and as you know, I sit on the Planning Commission. And in addition to the Planning Commission, I sit on other boards and associations, and I happen to be president of the Midtown Montgomery Neighborhood Alliance, and that's why I recused myself on voting on this. Garden District Preservation Association is a member, a charter member of the Midtown Montgomery Neighborhood Alliance. And this neighborhood is really split on this. And I didn't think I could vote on this because of that, but the definition Frank Cook read a while ago about spot zoning, I think this fits that. I think it is detrimental to the neighborhood. So if I were voting, I'd vote against this. At the risk of possibly losing Garden District as a member of the association, of the alliance, but I have to vote my heart. So that's about what I got to say.
So you oppose it?
I do oppose it.
Okay.
And your address, Mr. Reeves? Your address, sir, for the record?
I didn't understand you.
Your address for the record?
702 Green Ridge Road.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, very brief, very brief, very brief, very brief.
I just want to say that if you don't live in the Garden District, I don't really think that you should have an opinion, and I think it's really sad that you sit on that board and these are all your colleagues and you come and give your opinion. You recused yourself, or so I thought.
Ma'am.
You're entitled to your opinion.
Hey, he's
What I
a
would
part
like
of
to
the public.
say-
Ma'am,
what I-
we don't need that. We don't need this.
I understand,
okay?
Mr. Hardwick. I will say one
and you
more
may be
thing.
losing some votes up here with this attitude.
Kill it. Let's go.
Very brief, sir, very brief.
Thank God I can reach the microphone at 5'2". If the governor can do it, I want to do it. You know why? My daughter, one of them, is a marketing director of the River Region Ballet. You know who will be there? The River Region Ballet also, probably. I want that kind of decor there. We don't have loud noise. There's not going to be a parking problem around there. Recusal? I don't know about that. I'd like to see the petition. You should have seen the emails. Trash. I want this decided in refinement of this neighborhood. And by the way, I had to give tax dollars for the acoustics in this hall. You need to improve it. Thank you for the time and the freedom to speak.
Ma'am, sir, could y'all come forward? You saw the opposition, right? And you saw the people in favor of it. Now, if you want to get with the opposition and try to work something out, answer their issues or whatever, you can do that.
With all due respect, sir, we have opened that door many times.
So you want to vote tonight then?
Yes.
Ma'am, just so you know, this makes you.
Go ahead. No,
go ahead.
I was just going to say take
If
5
the
votes.
opposition is
Go
willing
ahead.
to have a discussion with me, I will absolutely leave that door open and have a
Okay.
discussion with them.
Okay, you know where it goes from here. I just want to make sure that you want the vote tonight. And you know what happens after that.
It goes to the city council.
Yes.
We are,
If it didn't, depending on the vote.
Either way.
Yeah.
that's what we're saying.
Either way.
Yes.
Okay.
We are a board. The city council usually takes our recommendations, but not always. So however the vote comes out tonight, you have the right to appeal, or the other people have the right to appeal to city council. Okay?
Yes, sir.
That's what
So you want to vote tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman, before we vote,
Any other questions? Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
yes, I have a couple of my concerns did get answered. Tommy agrees that the city is going to make these folks comply with the ADA, so I put a strike through that. Ms. Hilda Gant guarantees that there will be no sound coming out of the house through windows or doors that could prevent an airplane from being heard using weather stripping. The only two things that I have left that's concerning for me is the enforcement of all of the particulars that are in this packet that they're going to qualify for. I didn't get an answer on that. And the other one is, I do agree that this is spot zoning. I'm done. Oh, and by the way, my last comment, Mr. Ward Beeson, you asked this panel a question. You said, would I want to live next to a venue like this? And I'll be brave enough to stand up and tell you my answer is no, not only no, but hell no. Thank you.
Well, that was pretty clear.
With all that you have said, and all the people have said here, basically it comes down, your venue, you got your sound issue and you got your parking issue, and y'all have done a heck of a job addressing both of those.
Thank you.
So I don't think this is a detriment to other owners, and therefore I'm going to vote for it because I think it's a wonderful. There are not many people that's going to spend $1 million in Montgomery, Alabama on a house. These people are, and I don't see what the problem is here.
You know, yeah, the only other comment I've got is we have this same type of situation on a rezoning a lot, and what we do is what you were offering, and that is try to get the parties together, try to see if they can work out things. I'm gonna make a comment that I made the first time I saw the package. I saw, this is one of the best packages I've seen. I'll have to say the same thing to the opposition. That was one of the best packages of opposition that I've seen, detailed. And so I think what we've got is we've done collectively, everybody has done what we always ask to be done. And I think that's a positive thing. So it's kind of falls into how folks up here vote. At the end of the day, we all know how it goes. It's going to to the city council, okay? But it's what y'all have come in and spent a lot of time and energy, and I admire it. And somebody made the comment out here about young and bright. That's what we do need. So I'll leave it at that.
Is there anything, other than what she said, is there anything that would change you guys' mind of the opposition? Is there anything she can say or do?
Come up to the mic.
Come up to the thing.
Our opposition to this is the commercial zoning designation, because we see that once commercial zoning is in there, it has a very deleterious effect on other residential properties around it. Once something's zoned commercial, people don't want to buy a home next to commercial property. And so we saw that with the Mulberry district, where it became, one by one commercial, and now it's all commercial and very little residential through there. We don't want that to happen to our community, because we have, as you've heard, raised generations of families in these homes, and we want that to continue. We have nothing against the Caddens. I was 26 years old when we bought our house, and I know what it's like to love to restore a historic home. We would welcome them with open arms as neighbors, as long as the home is a residence and not to be used for commercial property.
Right.
So believe us, we have nothing against bright, wonderful, motivated people. We just wish that they would take their commercial interests elsewhere.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hey, listen, we're gonna, no, not you.
I just want to speak to what she said about commercialization.
No, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna go ahead with this.
We have commercialization in the neighborhood now.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. All right, you want the vote?
Yes, please.
All right, a motion is in order.
He's already made a motion.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Cook already made a motion.
No, I just said how I was going to vote. I'll make the motion now, though. Move to approve.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of approving this motion, please raise your hand. So what is that? Four? Okay, the motion did not pass. The motion, okay. All those opposed? As we said, you needed 5 votes. You only got 4. And now the next step, you could get with her, and she will tell you how to bring it before the city council.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So it's going up without an approval or without, or without a denial. Okay?
All right, thank you very much.
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, yeah, that's what I was just about to call him up.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we skipped over.
Item number 5 is J.M. Garrett and Son on behalf of Sun State Oil. It's a public hearing for development plan for new building and canopy at 1005 West South Boulevard, it's the M1 district.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Richard Bollinger. I'm with J.M. Garrett and Son, representing Prim Properties. I apologize, I was out of town trying to get here as quick as I could tonight. What I have is a site that had a gas station on it previously. It was demolished. They would like to come back and put a modern, updated gas station there. The project's been reviewed by most all of the city department heads and approved thus far.
Are there any questions from the board? Is there any questions from the members of the audience? All right, sir, this is a public hearing. There's no vote, so you've had your public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the 6th item is presented by J.M. Garrett and Son on behalf of Store Associates. It's a request for final approval of Store Associates Plat Number 3 on the southwest corner of I-65 South and West South Boulevard, it's the M1 district.
Again, Mr. Chairman, my name is Richard Bollinger with J.M. Garrett and Son, representing Prim Properties. This property had never been platted before, and we're asking that it go forward and become platted for the city records.
Any questions from the board? Members of the audience? All right, a motion is in order.
Move to approve.
Motion been made and second. All those in favor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all.
All right. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.